guest today is Joshua Chin. He's the co-founder of Chronos agency. He's helped generate $70 million for his clients in over 300 plus brands. Josh, welcome to our show today.
Thanks for having me, Christopher.
So as you know, Josh, the first thing I said is when I look at you, I have to smile because I get told all the time how young I look. So I'm in my 40s. And when I look at you, like that's how I looked when I was in my 20s. So you can imagine how much more challenging it was for me when I started my speaking career 20 years ago. It's like, wait, what do you do for a living? And so again, it's just more of a filial thing where you're one of our first Asian entrepreneurs. So first, I appreciate you being on the show. And I want to really dive into your story. So first of all, tell us a little about your backstory. When did you start realizing that you had some little bit of an entrepreneurial drive in you?
Yeah, so it all, I guess it started when I was 10. My parents declared bankruptcy and divorced. So before the divorce, my life was pretty simple. It was peaceful, and in my mind, it was perfect. After school, my sister and I would play at the toy stores surrounding our parents' fruit stall, and that was their business. So the bankruptcy and breakup left our family kind of fractured, like literally in two separate homes. It also forced an excruciating choice on me. Did I want to live with my mom or my dad? At a certain point in time, I was living with my dad at that time, so I chose to stay with him. So making a choice like that just broke my heart and broke probably my mom's heart as well and my parents' heart. So that was the moment where it gave me a deep sense of like the fragility of relationships and honestly at that point in time, just how powerful money can be. Because a lot of that problem, a lot of those problems could be solved with money, or at least been alleviated somewhat with money. And I decided that I would do whatever it takes to provide financial security for my family, and I would steep my life in meaningful relationships in doing so. Yeah. So yeah, that was where that whole hustle begun.
Yeah, and it's important. So it's like you're essentially saying, break your heart when you're really young to have that drive.
Oh yeah.
But it's I'm laughing, but it's also true because let's say Howard Schultz, he's the former CEO of Starbucks. He remembers seeing his father lose a job and how crushed his father was. But again, it's those internal motivations. Or in my case, my mom was a former school teacher. My dad's a former case manager. But I distinctly remember my grandmother, who lived in a not so nice area in New York City, where every single month she'd always be nagging my father to ask, when are the food stamps coming? When is this coming? And I just remember that feeling of, I don't ever want to have money an issue. People always say, oh, money's not important. Like, you know what? That's like the worst lie in the world. It's not the most important thing, but it's one of the most important things. And that's a very clear contrast where when you have money, it gives you more choices. And it sounds like for you, it came from a very young age. So from that desire and hunger, how did you start implementing that? How did you start having that actual application as opposed to just a hunger?
Yeah, so I went to university. I did well in school. So when I came to Singapore, so I was born and raised in Malaysia, just over the border from Singapore. I came to Singapore on a scholarship, and that gave me a free ride all the way till the point of university. So I got another scholarship for university. So throughout my whole kind of education, I didn't pay a single cent, and I got an allowance from the government to study as well. And during that time, I did a ton of side hustles, almost landed in scams as well, MLM, Ponzi schemes. I waited tables. I tutored people online. I did live private tutoring as well. I drop shipped random products on eBay. And eBay caught my attention. I like the immediacy of selling something. But I didn't like the fact that it was strictly transactional. Now, eBay held all my customers' data, and I had basically I had no options around contacting my customers, building a real relationship and with them. And there was no real opportunity to turn that into a brand or a business for that method. So I was determined to find a line of work that I loved at that point, and not just something that I could make money off in the short term. So I took every penny of the little savings that I had from little side hustles It was a couple $1,000, and I reinvested that into online courses, the ones with those ads that you see online, and books about various online businesses and digital marketing. And that's when I found a course on e-commerce email marketing, and I loved it immediately.
Why
It
though?
basically gave me, so yeah, that was a strange thing. So it caught my attention, firstly because of the results that it promised. So it was actually a course for e-commerce brand owners, and the results that it promised was, at that point in time, was like a 10 to 20% lift in total revenue with email alone. And I thought to myself, all right, cool. If I could reach out to a small business that was generating $1 million a year in revenue, and I approached them, and if I promised to increase that by at least 10 to 20%, that's an additional $100,000 to $200,000 per year. They would be crazy to say no to that. So I loved it immediately. And I also love the fact that with email, I could create a very quick feedback loop. There was that sense of immediate, instant gratification of try something out, write a copy, design an email, and I would know pretty much within 24 hours if that worked out well or if that flopped.
Yeah.
And that fueled my need for just immediate feedback. So yeah. And I was working from my dorm room. I had pretty much nothing to lose and lots of time to fill. So I dove into learning everything I could.
Yeah, the immediacy is important too. And what about now though, with all these bots, with the Facebook bots and text messaging, do you think that that's cut into the effectiveness of email marketing? Or is it more of like a 1-2 punch now?
It's a 1-2 punch. It's complementary. So the thing about email is that when you're on an email, your audience, they're basically they're a captive audience. There's nowhere else to click. There's nowhere else to scroll. It's just an email. If they're not happy with that email, if they don't find value in it, they click out of the email, and that's the end of that conversation. With text, it's much more instant. It's conversational. It's short, and it serves its purpose in certain parts of the customer's journey. But email remains and still is a very, very strong relationship builder that so far cannot be replaced on its own. As working adults, working professionals, I would say that most parts of the developed world still uses email as a primary mode of communication. For that reason, email still remains a big part of our daily lives. So if it's a big part of our daily lives, it's going to be a part of our habits, and using emails is probably never going to go away in the next 10 years. Obviously, there will be new ideas and new technology like bots and mobile first messaging that's happening, especially in my part of the world, in Asia, in Southeast Asia. We're seeing countries leapfrogging past email into just mobile commerce and mobile messaging first. But those are far and few between. Most of the English-speaking big countries like US, UK, Canada, Australia, we're still relying on emails primarily. So using that plus SMS and chatbots, that's where we're able to fill in all the gaps in communication and interaction with a customer.
So even though you say you're email marketing agency, you actually do work with the bots as well as text messages.
Oh, we do.
Right? Okay, great. And
Yeah.
let's talk about your company. I'm always fascinated with names. So your company name is called Chronos Agency. Why did you choose to call it Chronos?
Oh, all right. That's a really good question. So there are two. So I'm pretty transparent with this. There are two versions to this story. There is the
one when you're drunk and one when you're not.
Oh no, the PR version and well, they're both true, right? The PR version, and I guess the raw unedited version. So I'll give the raw one first, and then the PR version. So the real reason is I was on a website called, I'm not sure if it's still around. It's called randomnamegenerator.net. And I I keyed in a couple of terms. I remember it being freedom, time, and I think control or something along those lines. And I was clicking on randomize a couple of times. And out came a couple of options, including Chronos, and that stood out to me. I think it was spelled with a K, Kronos, which is the, I guess, traditional, I believe, Greek spelling.
Possibly, yeah, possibly.
And so, yeah, Chronos is a titan in, I believe, Greek mythology. He was the god of time. He controlled time. And that resonated with me. So here comes the PR version. So the real reason why I was attracted to the name was because of what it represented. The idea of having control of time, such a rare resource and scarce resource that is pretty much a level that levels the playing field for everyone. Everybody has 24 hours and everybody has the same amount of time to work with. And in my life, I had very little choices and very little options growing up, given the background that I grew up in. And I wanted the ability to take control of my life and my time in this world. And at the same time, I felt that what I was doing with my work was giving a lot of that time and energy back to my clients, by taking over an entire marketing channel while generating a ton more profits for the brands that we work with, which obviously allows them to do whatever they want with that money to grow the brand, to further their lifestyle or business, and keep our clients in their areas of geniuses. And that was meaningful to me. So
Both those stories, you get a thumbs up from me, Josh, because really, when you think about scaling, it's about automation. And when you have someone like you as an expert, it's really email marketing is one of the most amazing things to be able to do. And I appreciate that. So when people ask me what I do, I always say, look, I primarily am a keynote speaker. I travel while giving talks. People hire me like Discover Card and I'll speak there for a half hour or an hour and then they give me a check and I leave, right? And sometimes they invite me to resorts and castles. It's a kind of fun life, right? But when they ask me what's one of the most common challenges that people have when they start or even when they want to scale, they're always quite shocked when I tell them the answer, and that is a brand. They have to have a global brand. They think they have to write a book. They think they have to speak well. They think they have to have all these things. No. It's like, if you don't have a global brand, people won't care what you say. Going back to the catching your attention. That's why when you think of Louis Vuitton or Ritz-Carlton or Waldorf Astoria, they're all these global brands where the vast majority of people I meet, they always say, I can't charge $10,000-$20,000 for a speech, Christopher. And it's because you're pitching yourself as like a Kia, not to knock on Kia's cars, but it's more of a discount car. And you want a Bugatti price tag. So from a speaking standpoint, one of the biggest things I see lacking is they have no understanding of branding. And I worked at American Express. I know this very well. So same question to you in the email marketing space. What's one of the most common things that people don't really know that it's like consistent with the people you work with?
Oh man, that's a really good one. So there are kind of common assumptions to how email marketing works. So there is the traditional EDMs, right? Electronic direct mails, and those kind of what's happening with email at that point in time was kind of batch and blast, the batch and blast approach with email blasts, and that's no longer not just ineffective, but also harmful today because of the way that algorithms are set up. Gmail, Yahoo, the more modern ISPs are looking at senders and looking at emails in a much more different light. They're looking at user engagement and how much value it brings to the user at the end of the day. So batching and blasting emails are no longer relevant because it's not relevant anymore to the user. If you're sending out a mass message to every single one on your list, every single person and subscriber on your list, it's unlikely to be applicable to that message is unlikely to be applicable to every single person that's receiving your email. And for that reason, you're going to see a lot of low open rates, low engagements, which just lead to not just bad results in that email, but also in subsequent mailings that you send out. So we've evolved from email blasts to email automations that are based around behavioral triggers, time-based triggers, and as well as predictive analytics triggers. So these are really, really interesting kind of automations that can be set around the customer's journey and how it's relevant to each stage of that journey. And then moving on from that point is thinking about how to optimize what has already been built. Now, email marketing and its impact is not something that you can kind of set it once and it's there forever. It's set it once and optimize that over time to optimize not just the results of the opens and clicks and all that stuff, but also its final impact in its revenue creation and profit generation. So that's where most people get it wrong. It's not a set it and forget it type of a marketing channel. It's a continuously optimize. It's a very boring long-term project that ultimately becomes very, very profitable.
Yeah. Joshua, you might be one of the most thoroughly articulate individuals that I've met talking about email marketing. Because you go from your backstory of your company, which has a lot of depth, but then you talk about behavioral science and predictive, which is great because, like I said, I've met a lot of these quote unquote gurus and people that are very good at email marketing. And the way that you explain it, it just makes a lot of sense because essentially you are building a rapport, building a community through writing. And as you know, I'm a storyteller and a writer and an author and a speaker, and I love writing. And that's why when I had a chance to talk to one of our mutual friends, Ian Park, giving you a shout out, it was exciting to connect with you because it really is about building those stories and building those relationships. So Josh, thank you so much for being on our show. How can our guests connect with you and stay in touch with you and hire you one day?
Yeah, you can reach out to me personally via email. It's joshua@chronos.agency. That's joshua@chronos.agency. Or you could reach out. I could learn more through our website. We have a pretty cool website. It's chronos.agency. And yeah, hope to connect with you guys.
Great. Josh, thanks so much for your time. Have a great day.